Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey, Assistant Pastor. During the Second World War, I lived in a thatched cottage in the pastoral countryside of Wiltshire in the southwest of England. Far from the bombs that were falling on the cities, my world was composed of verdant fields and hedgerows, farm animals, and crops of hay and corn. Every now and then, however, there was a reminder that the country was at war. Our tranquil life would be disturbed by convoys of military vehicles which would pass our garden gate on their way to or from nearby Salisbury Plain, home to the largest military training area in the United Kingdom. A cartoon from those days is lodged in my mind. Local recruits from the army are on parade, marching through their hometown behind the military band, ready to go off to war. Concerned parents are looking on with pride. Suddenly, a doting mother exclaims to her friend, "Oh, look, Florence, they're all out of step except our George." In the book of Galatians chapter 5, verse 13, the Apostle Paul writes, "Let us keep in step with the Spirit." Sadly enough, too many of us Christians, like our George, think we're doing fine, but we're out of step with the Spirit. Keeping in step with the Holy Spirit means that our behavior derives not from the mechanical observance of a legal code, but from our relationship with God. My wife cooks my supper, for example, not because I order her to, but because she loves me. The result may be the same. I get my supper. But how different the motivation. I know a man who as a teenager found an enormous challenge to keep his bedroom tidy. His mother would shake her head and murmur prophetically, "Son, I don't know whom you're going to marry, but I'll tell her I tried." Some years later, when the bride had been chosen and the wedding ceremony was history, we learned that it took less than a week for the young man to learn not to kick his dirty socks under the bed at night. He was now motivated by a loving relationship rather than adherence to rules. Again, I know a man who, when a lad of 16, his father asked to do a chore, perhaps mow the lawn, "Make me," responded the lad, albeit with a twinkle in his eye. Said the father, "I know you're a young man now and you're bigger than I am, but I also know that because of your love for me, you're going to want to please me." The boy did the chore, not because of instruction, but out of love for his father. The Galatians, to whom Paul writes, had begun their Christian life on the basis of a relationship with God, but had let someone convince them that Christian living involved obeying a list of rules. They had fallen out of step with the Holy Spirit. Jesus told his disciples that if they loved him, they would want to please him. The Christian life wasn't about rules, but about relationship. You may remember a dramatic moment during the women's 3,000-meter race at the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. The media billed it as a duel between American world champion Mary Decker and Zola Budd, who ran barefooted for Britain. Decker was ahead, but just over halfway through the race, Budd pulled ahead of Decker, who tripped over her leg, fell forward, and crashed onto the infield. In similar fashion, many Christians have fallen by trading their relationship with Christ for bondage to a legal code. They have fallen out of step with the Holy Spirit. So don't be like our George. Keep in step with the Spirit. And thank you for tuning in to Village Church Connections.